Hello, welcome to this little lighthouse tutorial. I thought it'd be really sweet to do a lighthouse on a bookmark because it's just the perfect height for it. Nice thin subject, and I've always had a little bit of a fascination with lighthouses. So what I'd like to do is I'm thinking of a little bit of an overcast day so that we can have some nice shadow and we can practice putting that in on the lighthouse. I think this is going to be quite fun to do. So I need to mix up a few colours first so we have an idea of what we're going to do. So I want a sort of a light watery sky. So I'm doing like a tea consistency here. It's very runny, just a very slight suggestion of blue in there, really, really pale. And I'm going to have your typical sort of red lighthouse, but I've got pink here, so I'm just going to tone it down a little bit. Use a little of the raw umber. I'm going to tone that red down. Just build up the consistency on my palette here, because I don't want it to be too wishy-washy. I've got my scrap paper here. That's nice. So it's like an old faded lighthouse. So to get this, that was the quinacridone rose and raw umber. I'm going to mix some burnt sienna. Get hold of it. I'm using my paint dots because this tutorial is going to be in with one of my kits as well. And this is what you get supplied with your kit, is these paints. And add a little bit of the chromite. And it should give me a nice stormy grey. That's like a greeny grey at the moment. Oh, I'm actually quite liking that. Go a bit more with the brown. That's nice. And then if you water it down more, you've got this lovely, soft, shadowy colour. That's nice. And just add a little bit more blue in there. I just think it's really important to just play with your colours for a moment before you rush in on the picture, which we're all itching to do. It's good to have a play with your colours, and I think this is therapeutic because it just allows your mind to think, right, switch everything off, forget everything else for a minute. It's time to paint. That's what we're doing. Okay. I think this would be quite nice as the sort of the shadow colour. And then, so we could put the shadow in first, and then we can use this red and we'll go over that shadow for where those shadow bits are. I'm going to let that dry first, and then I'll do a little test and see if it's got the colours that I want. Yeah, that's a lovely sort of bluey sky colour. And we're going to need some nice browns, just generally for the rocks and things. Might practice butter technique on that. There we are. So dry brush technique for some of the rocks. And there isn't much paint on your brush. You could bring a little bit of that into it. So we'll do a bit of that as well. A little bit of sort of scumble for the grasses. I'm picturing some nice sort of grasses here. Maybe the odd spatter of red poppies. I don't know. We'll see how carried away we get. Right, that's kind of dry. So if I was going over with a red bit, just bringing that over. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Okay, we might even want to add a little bit of black to that. Take it down into shadow. And then I could get a slice of shadow on there as well. Yeah, I think that's going to work just fine. Okay, I've got an idea what I'm going to do. I've prepped a little bit. Let's go into it. Okay, so I've changed my water and we can dive into our picture. So I'm going to start. I've got a size 4 brush. I've got a larger one if I need it, but I might just use a small brush to do all of this because it's quite a small subject. So I'm just going to have really watery blue to start with, and I'm just going to sort of dab it around as a suggestion. I don't want to go to the edges of my bookmark. I want it to sort of breathe a little bit. I like to leave spaces. I'm just going to go around my lighthouse, but I'm not touching all of the lighthouse sides. I'll do a little bit and then I'll give it a little wiggle. Just keeps it nice and loose. And it's such a small subject that this should dry nice and quickly for us. I like that. It's just a suggestion of blue. It's not a bright blue sky because it's quite overcast. That's how I'm picturing it anyway. There we go. That's all you need. And while that dries, I'm going to do a little bit on the rocks. So let's mix up a little bit of the blue and the cadmium yellow, which will give us a green. It's far too bright, so add a bit of raw umber in. It's more of like a sort of an earthy. I'm going to put those colours back in, a bit more blue. That's nice. That's like an olive. It's more of an olivey, sagey green. I like that a lot. That's more the kind of grassy green I'm picturing. You don't need a lot. So what did I just do? I had raw umber. Let's just build up the consistency. So we've got plenty of it. And then we had a bit of blue in there. We had a bit of yellow. And put a bit of blue back in to bring it back. Fun of colour mixing, you can just go on and on. There we go. Pretty much what I had originally. But you can see there's a slight difference. Now this is a good top tip. Always make sure before you do something, if I've got a little area here that I want to use all of that green for, just take the time to mix up enough, because the chances are you're not going to be able to mix it exactly how you did. There's always going to be that slight variation. Can you see that? So I would always recommend mix up enough and then you don't have the drama of worrying about it. Okay, see, that's pretty much dry now. It's going to go really quickly. I'm going to give it a minute to dry though. You can always get a hairdryer as well. Now, what I want to do for the rocks is I wanted to give them a little bit of like a rough texture, but I'm going to put sort of a base underneath as well. So I'm just going to, right, we have here a watery raw umber. It's really, really watery. I don't want to fill them all in just yet. I want to have some options later. Now, my light source is coming from this direction. I'm going to make my shadow here. So I want to have a little bit of light on the edge of these rocks. So don't fill them all in completely at the moment. I want there to be a bit of light shining on them. That's going to help you to have a bit of realistic depth into your painting. I'm going to focus more on the left-hand side of these rocks, leaving like a little slice of light in between, and I think that's going to be quite nice. This is just your base coat, just an initial wash, so you don't have to put too much colour in this right now. We're going to just slowly build it up. I've just given mine a quick blast with the hairdryer, so it's all nice and dry now. If you do that, I would suggest using like a cool setting, to switch it to cool rather than bake it. Just give it a little blast, so it's just like a bit of fresh air on it really. Okay, so we've got our murky grey, which was the chromite blue, and burnt sienna. It's almost like a greeny grey, isn't it? Might just add a little bit of black into that just to take it right down to a shadow colour. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Now I'm going to wet my lighthouse. You can go over your windows. I'm not going to touch this side. I'm going to leave that in the light because my light source is coming from this direction. So I just want shadow on this side of the lighthouse. I'm going to go all the way up with my water to this bit here because I want there to be shadow all the way along. Okay. And then a steady hand, I'm going to lean mine down so that I can get the angle. Just make a nice sharp line all down the left hand side. Make sure you've got that as strong as you want it. Down there, because it will gradually come across, and then you can help it a bit. I haven't added any more water at this point yet. I'm just going to do that now. So rinse and dry my brush, just take off excess water. I'm just going to run a wet brush along the middle and just catch this edge here to help it along a little bit. Now you see how that's a soft graduation along there. Now if I want it to be darker, I'm going to have to do it now because it's going to dry. So if I want to just add a little bit more depth, I need to get that in there now. Try and keep a straight line. There. I really like that. That's lovely. I'm also going to take this shadow. I'm going to just do a little bit along the top. And just blend it softly. So we've got a little bit of shadow at the top as well. And then just ever so slightly a little bit on the edge of the little cap of the lighthouse like that. So when I paint over this in red, that nice shadow is underneath. That's going to help me. There, that's nice. Starting to come together. So, oh, I've just dabbed on that tissue instead of this tissue. So I want to mix up a little bit of a seaside. There we go. Just want to work on a little bit more of a richer blue for the sea itself. Now, do I want that blue or do I want to make it a bit stormy? What do we want to do? See, I could add a little bit of a storm colour in. That gives me a bit of a darker, oh yes, it is a bit of a murky seaside day. So I'm going to just put my sea in this side. I've got to be careful it doesn't run in there actually. I did that a bit quick, so if you make sure you wait until your lighthouse is dry. I was a little bit of an eager beaver there. I'm going to leave little pockets there, almost undone, so it's going to want the sea coming in around the rocks. Just leave a little bit of light in here so it almost looks like the sun could be sort of shimmering on the water there. Hoping that's not going to run into my... There we go, I've got away with that. Okay, so you've got your sea colour in. Now, I want you to practice your butter technique when it comes to the consistency exercise. So what you want to do is you just add a tiny bit of water to activate your paint, but then you need to have quite a dry brush, and you just kind of tap it onto your paint. If you've got a well of paint and it's flooded in the middle, you're not going to be able to do it. You just want to sort of touch the outside so you feel that sort of like sticky, I call it ticky-tacky. You can feel it. You can hear it. That's what you want. So that's your butter. So you're just picking up just enough paint, but it's sort of scratching on the surface. And I just want to scratch that over the rocks. So we just get just a rough. There we are. Just a little bit of a texture there on the rocks. You can do as much as you want. I'm keeping mine sort of quite simple. But it's a nice way to practice just catching enough. So just dab it ever so slightly on the side. If it's coming out too much, just work it off on your scrap piece of paper. That's what it's for, until it sort of starts to disappear. And then that's when it's quite a nice time to put it onto your picture. Okay, so let's see if my lighthouse isn't dry. I'm going to give it another blast with a hairdryer. I come back to this lovely green, and then I'm going to use this to put a few bits of foliage and grass here. Using the side of my brush, so I don't want to get too detailed. I want it to look like it's sort of a bit wild there. And then you can put a few in between your rocks as well. We want to have a bit more definition in our rocks, so we'll take some more umber. You can mix it into that little bit of black if you've got it. I'll just keep it nice and dark. Then we want to just go in between some of the rocks to give us a little bit of depth. And that will help us to achieve some distance as well. If we add a few of the shadows in between the rocks here. I'm going to use some of this stormy blue, mix in a bit of the light blue from the sky as well, so we get like a bit of reflection going on. Bring some of that into the rocks as well. Give us a suggestion of a little bit of like a sandy bit in the foreground there as well. If you add a little bit of black into your green, take it right down to really dark green, and you can put a little bit of this at the base of your foliage. That's going to help to ground it, to sort of anchor it to the ground. But you only want to keep it at the base for it to be effective. There, it's coming to life. It's just in my imagination, so just sort of imagine where the shadows will be. There. And if we go back to our black, You need this to be quite defined black, so you need a nice strong consistency so that it's making nice defined lines. And then do a little practice run on your paper, and then we're going to put in the little details. Try and have a steady hand if you can. May end up with a slightly wobbly lighthouse, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm going to put the little railing in. Just take your time. This is what's relaxing about painting. Little details. Okay. A little shadow in there. That enhances the shadow on the side. There we go, that pulls that in a little bit more shadow there. I just want to put a little bit more of an exaggerated shadow on this side here. There, that works nicely. Be careful you haven't got a bead of water. You normally just have a little bead that sits there. When you're doing really detailed work, that could just fall into your picture and it would be really annoying. So just check when you're doing little details like this. Just going to darken those bits a little bit there. I've got the actual light inside my lighthouse I need to pop in as well. Put that detail in there. And we can come back and do a bit more detail down here. Again, I'm going to use all of this. I'm adding a bit of everything in here now. So I get this sort of stormy, dark, shadowy colour. I just want to use that to define some of the shapes of the rocks down here. A little bit more definition. I'm looking for like sort of a nice loose interpretation. I don't want it too sort of tight and fixed, but sometimes if you do a little bit, it's quite nice to sort of just help it pop out a little bit. And then we can just test if that colour would work. Yeah. Just a couple of little seabirds. Let's have 3 because 3 is a nice number for me. There. There's a really simple little lighthouse. That hasn't taken us very long. You could do so many of these, all different stripy ones, different coloured ones. I hope that's inspired you to get painting anyway and you've had fun with this. I've just added a little signature to the bottom of my bookmark, and you should do the same. You should always sign your work, and you could make lots of these for friends. You could make them quite unique to each friend, depending on the subject that you're painting. Just going to pop a little tassel on it, and there we go, all finished. And rather perfectly, my next read was lined up to be Letters from the Lighthouse Cottage. I like Ali McNamara, she makes me laugh. So there we go, all ready for my next read. Thank you, hope you've really enjoyed this.